Picture this. It's 5 a.m., and your alarm is screaming at you like a drill sergeant. You drag yourself out of bed because that's what disciplined people do, right? You stumble to your meditation cushion, but your mind is already racing through your to-do list. After forcing yourself through 20 minutes of restless mindfulness, you choke down your optimized breakfast, probably something joyless involving chia seeds and kale. Throughout the day, you resist every temptation, decline every invitation, say no to every distraction. By evening, you're supposed to work on your side project, practice that skill you're developing, maybe hit the gym again. Instead, you collapse on the couch, scroll mindlessly through your phone, and hate yourself for being so weak. Sound familiar? Here's what nobody tells you. You're not weak. You're not lacking discipline. You're caught in a trap that was designed to break you. Let me introduce you to Roy Baumeister, a psychologist who discovered something that should fundamentally change how you think about self-improvement. Willpower, that thing you've been told is just a matter of character and determination, isn't actually a personality trait at all. It's a resource. A limited, depletable, finite resource, like the battery in your phone. And just like your phone battery, once it's drained, it doesn't matter how important that next task is. You simply don't have the juice to power through it. Baumeister proved this with an experiment that's both simple and devastating. He brought people into a lab and put them in a room with two bowls, one filled with freshly baked chocolate chip cookies, the other with radishes. Some participants were told they could eat the cookies. Others were told they could only eat the radishes, forcing them to resist the delicious temptation sitting right in front of them. Afterward, everyone was given an impossible puzzle to solve. Here's what happened. The people who had to resist the cookies gave up on the puzzle much faster than those who got to indulge. Same people, same puzzle. But one group had already burned through their willpower reserves just by saying no to cookies. They had nothing left for the puzzle. Now think about your day. Every single decision you make, every temptation you resist, every time you force yourself to do something you don't want to do, all of it is draining from the same tank. You're not running multiple systems of discipline. You've got one battery and you're asking it to power your entire life. This is why you can resist that pastry at breakfast but find yourself elbow deep in a bag of chips at 9 p.m. This is why you start the day as a productivity machine and end it as a Netflix zombie. You're not experiencing a moral failure. You're experiencing resource depletion. But here's where it gets worse. And trust me, it gets so much worse. The self-improvement industrial complex has turned you into a decision-making machine, and every decision is killing you. Should you do yoga or high-intensity interval training today? Is this the optimal breakfast for cognitive performance? Are you journaling correctly? Should you use the Pomodoro technique or time blocking? Every single one of these micro-optimizations, these tiny choices that you think are making you better, is actually draining the resource you need to actually improve. Nietzsche warned us about this, though he couldn't have imagined our modern optimization obsession. He wrote about the last man, this creature so obsessed with comfort and safety and small pleasures that they miss the entire point of existence. That's what we've become. Last men desperately optimizing our morning routines while our lives slip away in a fog of productivity theater. And it gets even more twisted. Baumeister discovered something called the moral licensing effect, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here's how it works. Every time you do something good, your brain gives you permission to do something bad. Went to the gym this morning? Congratulations, you've just earned that massive burger and the right to skip tomorrow's workout. Meditated for 20 minutes? Your brain says you can scroll TikTok guilt-free for an hour. Read 30 pages of that difficult book? Perfect. You've earned a night of binge-watching garbage television. You think you're building discipline, but you're actually just negotiating with yourself, and you're losing every negotiation. Freud would have understood this perfectly. Your ID, that primitive part of you that just wants immediate pleasure, doesn't care about your 5-year plan. It doesn't care about the person you're trying to become. It wants what it wants, and every time your ego tries to strike a deal, just do this hard thing and then you can have that pleasure. You're actually training yourself. That hard work is the price you pay to earn the right to quit. Now let's talk about what happens when you actually get close to achieving something, because this is where the whole system reveals its cruelest joke. It's called the goal gradient hypothesis, and it describes this vicious cycle. The closer you get to a goal, the harder you push. You can see the finish line, so you sprint. You sacrifice sleep. You cut out all pleasure. You become this hyper-focused achievement machine. And then you cross that line, you hit that goal, and something strange happens. You collapse completely. You've depleted your willpower so thoroughly in that final push that you have nothing left, so you reward yourself. You binge, you slack off, you fall apart. And then you look at yourself in disgust and wonder why you can't just maintain your momentum, why every breakthrough is followed by a breakdown. Jung saw this coming from a different angle. He talked about the shadow, all those parts of yourself you suppress and deny in pursuit of your ideal self. When you're grinding toward a goal, you're not just pushing yourself forward, you're pushing parts of yourself down. The need for rest, for pleasure, for chaos, for uselessness, all of it gets shoved into the basement of your psyche. But Jung's insight was that the shadow doesn't disappear. It accumulates, it grows stronger, and eventually it demands compensation. That's why your reward always overshoots. That's why one cheat meal becomes a week-long binge. Your shadow isn't just taking back what you denied it, it's charging interest. Here's an even subtler trap, and this one is absolutely deadly. At some point in your optimization journey, you stop trying to improve yourself and start trying to be the kind of person who improves themselves. You're no longer working out to be healthy. You're working out because you're a person who works out. You're not reading to learn. You're reading because intellectual people read. Self-improvement stops being something you do and becomes who you are. And maintaining an identity, Baumeister found, requires constant willpower. You have to keep proving to yourself that you are this person. Every deviation becomes an existential threat. Miss one workout and you spiral because it means you're not who you thought you were. This is where Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence becomes brutally relevant. He asked, if you had to live this exact day over and over again for eternity, would you say yes? Not the day you're working toward, not the future where you finally become that optimized person. This day, right now, with all its forced discipline and joyless striving and optimization anxiety. Would you choose that? If the answer is no, then what exactly are you doing? So how do we get out of this nightmare? How do we actually grow without self-destructing in the process? First, you need to understand that the answer isn't more discipline. The answer is strategic laziness. Baumeister's research points to a simple truth. Successful people don't have more willpower. They make fewer decisions. They automate everything that doesn't matter, so they can preserve their limited resources for what does. Steve Jobs wore the same outfit every day, not because he lacked fashion sense, but because he understood that deciding what to wear was a waste of precious decision-making capacity. You need to look at your life and ask, what can I put on autopilot? Same breakfast every morning, same workout schedule, predetermined responses to recurring situations. Every routine you establish, every decision you eliminate is willpower you're saving for the battles that actually matter. Nietzsche's Übermensch doesn't waste energy on trivial choices. They conserve power for creating values, for making the decisions that shape reality itself. But here's something even more important. Stop fighting yourself and start designing your environment. This is where most people get it completely backward. They think self-improvement is about developing the willpower to resist temptation. Wrong. Self-improvement is about eliminating temptation, so you don't need willpower at all. Don't try to resist junk food through sheer force of will. Remove it from your house entirely. Don't battle your phone addiction every single day. Use app blockers that make the battle unnecessary. Don't force yourself to read in a room with a television. Remove the television. Jung understood this at a deep level. He said we need to work with our shadow, not against it. Accept that you're weak, that you're human, that you will always take the path of least resistance when you're depleted. Once you accept this, you can design a life where the path of least resistance leads toward your goals, not away from them. And here's the thing, nobody wants to hear, but everybody needs to understand. Rest is not the opposite of growth. Rest is the prerequisite for growth. Baumeister's research shows that willpower recovers through sleep, through glucose, through positive emotions, through the exact things that optimization culture tells you to sacrifice. You cannot sprint forever. The reason you keep hitting walls isn't that you're not trying hard enough. It's that you're not recovering enough. Schedule your recovery like you schedule your workouts. Treat joy, uselessness, and play as essential parts of your system, not rewards you have to earn. Nietzsche talked about the Dionysian, the chaotic, ecstatic, intoxicated side of existence that balances the Apollonian drive for order and perfection. You need both. A life of pure discipline, pure optimization, pure striving isn't a good life. It's a prison sentence. Finally, and this might be the most important shift of all, stop obsessing over outcomes and fall in love with process. The brutal irony is that obsessing over your breakthrough prevents the breakthrough from happening. When you're constantly measuring yourself against where you want to be, every moment becomes evidence of your failure. You're not there yet, so you're failing. This depletes your willpower faster than anything else. But when you shift your focus to the process itself, something magical happens. Baumeister found that people engaging in process-oriented activities actually replenish their willpower instead of depleting it. Stop trying to become disciplined as some future state. Instead, find a way to enjoy your morning coffee while reading. Find workouts you actually like doing, not the ones that promise optimal results. Build a life you don't need to recover from. So here's what real growth looks like. It's not grinding every day until you finally break through. It's consistent, small actions with enough space to breathe. It's not becoming a productivity machine. It's becoming someone who enjoys the process of becoming. Baumeister gives us the science. Willpower is limited, so use it wisely. Nietzsche gives us the meaning. Create your own values instead of optimizing yourself into someone else's ideal. Jung gives us the warning. What you repress will sabotage you. Freud gives us the reality. You contain multitudes, and your rational self isn't the only voice that deserves to be heard. The hardest part of self-improvement isn't the work. It's accepting that you're human, that you're finite, that you need rest, pleasure, and chaos as much as you need discipline and order. Stop trying to break through. Start trying to live well. The breakthroughs will come when you stop choking them with effort. Choose one thing to improve this week. Just one. Everything else, automate it, delete it, or accept beautiful mediocrity in it. And schedule something completely useless and joyful. That's not a waste of your potential. That's the only way to actually reach it.